Hey, everybody. Welcome to another great episode of LaQuita's Toolbox. I am your host, William McVade. You guys, so sorry. Just want to, off the back, we are so sorry we started late and everything. It's technology. Technology has just been messing up on our end. And so just forgive us about that. And we're going to just hop on in with our guest. We have a great special guest with us on tonight, and Miss Anna. She's going to help, and we're going to just have that conversation on planning your first women's retreat. Okay, and so before I bring her on, I'm going to go ahead and play this real quick ad, and we'll be right back.
Are you ready to take your business, career, and mindset to the next level? Then it's time to join the conversation on LaQuita's Toolbox. Whether you're an entrepreneur, leader, or someone just looking to level up, this show is packed with powerful insights and real strategies to help you succeed. Imagine yourself here, sharing your story, your expertise, and making a real impact with an audience ready to grow and thrive. With LaQuita's Toolbox, you'll be inspired, empowered, and part of an incredible community that's all about winning. This is your moment. Don't miss the opportunity to be a guest on LaQuita's Toolbox. Unlock new doors, connect with like-minded professionals, and elevate your brand to new heights. Ready to make your mark? Head over to www.laquitamonley.com, LaQuita's Toolbox, and sign up to be a guest today.
All right, you guys, welcome Miss Anna on tonight's show. How are you doing, Miss Anna?
I'm good. How are you? I feel like I'm in a shroud of darkness. We just moved, so I haven't figured out the lighting yet.
It's
It's
all
fine.
right. It's all right. I'm like, oh, all right, trying to get all the nerves and stuff out because this is our first time actually meeting. And so whenever I meet
Yeah,
somebody
yeah, yeah,
new, it's kind of like, oh my gosh, I don't want to say the wrong
yeah.
thing, but I feel
You're
like
in
we're gonna
good
have some
hands. I
fun.
travel with strangers for a living, so it's fine.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Miss Anna, I can't pronounce your last name
It's
because
fine.
I'm so
It's a hot
sorry.
mess.
But please introduce yourself to everybody and tell us a little bit about yourself and all the good things.
Sure. I'm Anna VanAgtmael. The G is silent, and I am the founder of Wandering Roots. I started a retreat brand in 2018. I host retreats, adventure retreats for women all over the world, and I help entrepreneurs plan and host their own profitable retreats.
Okay, awesome. So, Miss Anna, how did you get into planning retreats?
So, Cliff's Notes version, I quit a job in corporate. I was a lab manager for a molecular diagnostics lab for 13 years. And in that time, two things happened. One, uh, in my last stint, I was given the opportunity to be basically an entrepreneur without any of the financial risk. I was hired by a startup company based out of Canada, and I'm in Michigan in the US. And just built the lab, hired the staff, truly built the lab, like blueprints and everything, inventory, equipment, things like that. And sort of planted a seed that I had never considered. I had never considered being an entrepreneur, but I loved the challenge of it. And then I also had to have neck surgery
Ooh.
right around the same time. And
Oh,
I was in a neck brace for 4 months. And so I couldn't do anything. I was on it was like the first big pause in my life. I was 28,
mhm.
and I just had too much time with my thoughts, and I realized I didn't want any of the things I had achieved in my career. I was, like, just very bored, which, not wildly unhappy. I mean, like, more success than I ever thought possible, so it's making more money. I was higher on the ladder than I thought the trajectory would have been, and,
Wow.
so there's a lot of shame around being bored with it and wanting but I also at the, being in my 20s, just never thought about like, oh, this is it. This is like this is it. This is one life and I want it to just I want it to be more exciting. So
Wow. Okay. Okay. Awesome. Well, you guys, go ahead and take out your pens, paper, everything, whatever you need to jot this stuff down because we're about to go deep into step by step planning your first women's retreat. So for those who are looking to see how to get started, for those who may have been doing it for a while, this could be a great brush up, a great sharpening tool for you. So let's just get right into it. So, Miss Anna, what is, I guess I'm going to start from like the pre work before you even get started with planning everything out, or incorporating people to help you with the retreat. What are some of the
Yeah.
things that you have to do first? What are some of the ground, um, pretty much the ground, the foundation? That's what I'm trying to get out. The
Yeah,
foundation
yeah.
of getting this retreat together.
So I think that the first two things you should always do is um, write down why you want to do it. Like, I've never met any host, myself included, that their primary reason was because they wanted to make money. It's always so much deeper than that. It's always about sharing some content that they're truly passionate about. And I believe that retreats are really rewarding, but they're also an incredible amount of work. And so just writing down your why so that you can come back to it when you need a little pick me up, I think is a good thing to do. And then I think you should dream big in the beginning. I think you should write down your dream itinerary, add to it what the vibe should feel like, what you want your guests to feel like when they leave, while they're there. Um, I think those are the best first two steps because it sort of maps out, it gets you a little
Mhm.
bit more intentional, but also laser focused about what you want it to be. And then from there, you can sort of break it down on like what co-host or people you might need to hire to support you.
Okay, awesome. So, how long should somebody plan a retreat? Is there a certain time
Great
frame?
question. Yeah. I always say 6 to 9 months is a really good sweet spot, a good place to start. If this is the first retreat you've ever done, starting small and sort of doing maybe a little bit more local or like a shorter offering of like a 4 day, 3 night instead of like 7 days international is just a good place to start. Get
Yeah.
like dip your toe in, get your feet wet. I learned the most in the first two retreats I've ever hosted. And so just sort of fleshing out those like messy first steps on a smaller offering is like a is a good tip. And I think that 6 to 9 months is the perfect amount of time for a smaller offering like that because most people only need to take like 1 or 2 days off of work. They don't have to find you know, too much like childcare or pet care
Mhm.
or any coverage for all of their roles and responsibilities. It's not as big of an ask. But if you go further than 9 months, people will forget about it. They'll just like put it on the back burner and never come back to it. Like, oh, that thing's happening almost a year away. It's
Mhm.
you got to have a couple months to plan, and then you got to have a couple months to talk about it and sell it, and then people need time to plan and save. So all of that added up usually falls into that 6 to 9 month range.
Okay. And so when like getting an outline of how to plan a retreat, like what are some good ideas that could go into that outline to kind of like make sure that you maximize the time, and also maximize the place that or the venue that would be booked.
Yeah. So market research about asking like your existing clients and like the people you think would be is a really good um it takes the guesswork out of it, right? So
It
you
do.
can kind of guess where people want to go if you're trying to like look into venues and stuff, and then how much they're willing to spend or how much time they're willing to give you and things like that. And then once you can sort of again with like your dream itinerary, and then your feedback from your most ideal clients. I would reach out to at least 10 venues of wherever location you want to be, and some of those people have very different timelines than others. Some of them are booked a year in advance, so that
Uh,
would change your 6 to 9 month, but if you're going to um like a larger resort or a hotel and you're only using part of their space, most likely if you're sort of in that shoulder season, so not peak season, but like the couple months outside of the
yep.
peak season, you'll
Mhm.
get a better rate, you'll have more availability, and it'll be more likely that you won't need as much like advanced booking time. I hope that
Okay.
answered your question.
Yeah, yeah. Um, one thing that I find that's kind of like tasking is registration. You know,
Ugh,
trying
yeah.
to, trying to organize just the registration part just to make sure that everything is done properly. So, in your opinion, like, how should registration be done?
You should do it once and then streamline it so you never have to do it again, and you should make it comprehensive. I always joke that you're not going on a retreat as a host, you're keeping strangers alive in an unfamiliar place. And you should know their injuries or, physical like restrictions. You should know their dietary restrictions and allergies. You should know if they're majorly allergic to like penicillin or anything like that. You should always have some sort of, you should know where the emergency number where you're staying, and also the local like ER, the closest one, or urgent care, just to be safe. Just write it down and have it with you. You should have all of your guests' emergency contacts and numbers as well. I have an intake form that goes on my website, on my sales page. It funnels everybody into that before they pay the deposit, and it's just a rinse and repeat. You just click, I can add it to every single offering that I have. And you can make it cute too. You can say, are you an early bird or a night owl? Do you hate seafood? And also, what else, should you avoid, or things like that. You can add some like marketing flair to it and cute copy. So.
Okay, awesome. So, like, okay, so planning it the first time. We got the
Mhm.
outline. You know, we got the gist of how to do registration and getting the venue. We got the venue and everything. So, what comes next, in your opinion?
So normally, yeah, so normally I would say venue always comes first. It's the hardest thing to find. And then with the venue, sometimes your support staff is included. So maybe you get a chef with the place you're renting. Maybe there's a housekeeper, or maybe you don't need one. Maybe, whatever. I don't think you should ever host alone. So when you're creating that dream itinerary, like what support staff would like enhance your experience the most? Maybe it's a photographer, maybe it's a body worker, maybe it's
Mm.
whatever. And a chef, always there's always food, right? People got to eat and people like to, so there's got
Yes,
to
it
be
has
food.
to include food.
um yeah. And then you would kind of get it all together, um flesh out safety, liability, and all the things you want to ask your guest. Then once the guest registers and puts on the deposit, then you have to sort of have this funnel to nurture them. I know you already have them, but like you took their money and now they want to know what's going to happen over the next 6 to 9 months, right? So I have a funnel that I share with all my clients that I use, and it's like, okay, we're so stoked you're coming. This is what to expect over the next 6 to 9 months. And then there's one like 60 days before the actual retreat that goes out and says more specific details. Also, we're going to meet virtually, sort of like this, in a Zoom space, so that you can meet the host and all of the people you're going to spend the weekend with. Sort of get some of those icebreakers out of the question. Ask all the questions you want to make you less nervous to join us. And, that. And then I funnel all of my guests into a WhatsApp group chat, because we're usually international and somebody's picking them up from the airport
Right.
and we're trying to find everybody, and it's like herding cats sometimes. And so that's how we communicate in the week leading up to it, and help them pack, things like that. And then they also are able to keep in contact and connection post retreat, and 'cause usually people make new friends and stuff like that. But I would say the more you can, people are always nervous coming. And for me, usually by the first dinner, it's like all of that goes away. It's just fast friends. You're usually with like minded people, and it's really beautiful to watch strangers connect. But just calming their nerves so there's not so much anxiety leading up to it is a good way to think about how you're going to spend the time before, between the sale and before the actual gathering, you know?
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna reel back just a little bit because I just had a question for you. Dealing with
Okay.
registration. So
Yeah.
how can you, like, in your opinion, when it comes to registration, some people do packets, some people do bags, some people do like different, coupons and stuff like that to kind of
Got
like,
it. Yep.
get people to register more. So, and like, what do you recommend for starting out first in registration? Um, do you would it be wise to get like something big or something to like hand the person who registered?
So in the first year, I used to like mail them a like card and like handwrite it and like put some stickers in there or something
Oh,
like fun and like a few like tips or something to get ready. I have not done that in years, and maybe I should, but when I started doing more, I just didn't get to it.
right.
Now I really, really get into the gift bags, which is more like, and one of my questions on the registration, I asked them like, "What's the main reason they're coming?" And I don't know. I always like, some people are celebrating a birthday, so we'll decorate their room or whatever. But I get into gift bags. We really have like a supporting local businesses kind of niche here in Grand Rapids, and so we have people make them like the toiletry bags that they don't want to pack or have to
Hmm.
check for international, or maybe hiking socks because we're gonna hike a lot, or anything that's like not another pen or not another,
Right.
branded bag. Like, I don't know. Not that those are bad, but maybe a little more unique and something they haven't already got at a conference is.
I understand. Yeah, something not so generic. Pretty much something
Yeah.
not so generic.
Yeah.
Something.
Makes them feel a little more special, right? Like, not.
Honestly, when I go to conferences, or when I go to different retreats and stuff, when they have like the name of the retreat on like different items and stuff, to me
Yeah.
it feels more personal, you know. And
Yeah.
so I'm like, okay, they actually took time to
Yeah.
actually get all this stuff together and stuff, and it's not that,
Uh,
oh, just a regular pen, just a regular pencil.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Totally. We
So
actually have branded hand sanitizer because we do go outside a lot, and we do, I mean, we're traveling like whatever. So that was, we do luggage tags. So like anything branded, I try to keep within the like, I guess, essence of wandering roots, and then everything else is something they could use. Like my favorite sunscreen that doesn't burn your eyes or something. I don't know. Something like that.
something
You
safe.
know, there's nothing worse. Yeah. You like, okay, I'm going to protect myself from the sun, but now this chemical and this SPF is burning my eyes, and it's just the worst.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they'll be like, "This is the last time I'm coming back here."
I know. Like, what is this? This is
So,
terrible.
uh, one thing I want to do ask you is about sponsors. So, like,
Mm.
how do you try to get the sponsors if it's the first time we're doing a retreat? How do you get sponsors?
So first of all, always be honest. Say it's your first one, and say you're looking for partners for, the next couple years or for many more retreats. I negotiate a lot of times with venues based on how much make it a symbiotic relationship, right? Like,
Mm.
even doing this podcast, like I want to share Laquita and her staff and everything with my audience as well. Like, I think that first of all, that just creates better energy in your sphere in general.
They
But
do.
secondly, it makes for longer term, like really great working relationships. We've used the same apothecary entrepreneur slash brand for 6 years and
Wow.
for 22 retreats. I mean, I want them to benefit as well. So yeah, being honest, setting a budget or asking for a specific, like be specific, but also don't write 8 paragraphs about yourself. Write a brief thing about what you're doing, make it known that you've done the research on them. Tell them why
Mm.
you think they would be a good sponsor for your event. Talk about them a lot. Tell them they're wonderful, and then say, "This is how I think we could work together." There is nothing more irritating than getting an email saying, "I'm awesome." There's like this book about them, and then they're saying, "We should collab together." And it's like, really, if you read between the lines there, it's like, you look like an established brand. Can you just let me work? Can you do something for me for free? And that's not a
Uh,
symbiotic relationship. I don't think so. There's a way to ask that's not gross.
yes, because I'm pretty sure if it's done the wrong way, it it kind of goes off. Like they'll recognize it for the next time, and it
Yeah,
kind of
it
like
doesn't
puts you
feel
in a
good.
bad light.
Yeah.
But wow, um, what about the time frame on getting out these letters to these sponsors? What would be a good time frame?
I would do it before you launch your retreat, because if you're hoping to get us sponsored to save you some costs in some capacity, when I run my budgets, there's a line item for everything. Everything's an overhead expense. And so if you want to hit your numbers, you should consider that first. And if your goal is to be able to offer your guests a lower price point, you wouldn't have that information
That's true.
if you pre-sold it before, if you didn't get committed sponsors. So I would say that anytime you're negotiating anything, venue rates, trying to get a sponsor, it's like a good 4 to 8 week turnaround, just because there's so much email back and forth. And it's not like you're emailing them right away and they're
Right.
not emailing you right away. So it's just some tedious like emailing work. And so just give yourself enough time. Give yourself at least a month, I would say.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. So about a month to just kind of like get those out, just to have some leeway.
Yeah.
That way you can have that response time back, and making sure
Yeah.
that, hey, if they do say no, that you can easily go somewhere else. Like you can easily just kind of take
Yeah.
the.
Yeah, and same for the venue, and I would honestly approach like 10 a piece. It's not gonna hurt. Get as much info as you can. And I mean, I even had a woman host at the um Hilton. What was the other one we had? And I was like, I was just flat out, the Hilton gave us this rate and it's way less than yours. If you're gonna match it, cool. But if not, we're going there.
Oh
And
wow.
they came down, they didn't match it, but they did come down significantly. So like all of that info is like just a really good like negotiating tactic. And like the more research you do, the better, better the better your numbers will be, truly. So
Okay. Awesome. What about getting vendors? Because with some retreats, we like to have vendors there to kind of like fill in the time, or just kind
totally.
of be there to kind of like have other people kind of like shop around while they're at the retreat.
Mhm.
So, like when it comes to vendors, like how do we get them? And then on top of that, what like what is like the outline for getting vendors in the actual space that we need them?
So I would say it's the same as a sponsor almost. Like you're reaching out to them, you want
Yeah.
it to be a symbiotic relationship. You want to tell them why you think they would complement your experience and ask them what their rates would be. You can even come at them and say, I have a budget of X amount of dollars. be specific about what you want. I would say it's no different than, so like, I have a directory of people I work with as far as like chefs, body, just the like the basic people that would, photographers, whatever. If you're
Hmm.
going to do more of like a sort of like a trades show type exhibit where you'd have those types of vendors, that's
Hmm.
obviously very different. Um, I would like, one, do you really want to work with these people and why? Like, you've obviously observed their work in some capacity.
Yeah.
Um, if you have a referral, ask for an email like introduction. That'll get you further. And then also, if you can find people that are local to your event, you're going to save so much money because you don't have to pay for their lodging. And like there's it
True.
like a lot of times I will contract local photographers for a couple hours to come shoot some content and things like that, that cost you significantly less than if you have one on your retreat. Also, photography is really, really easy to investigate. You can go to their Instagram and see if you like their work or not. I still suggest you Zoom to see if you like their energy and you vibe well, because you got to share space together. But I would say this: anytime I'm emailing with a vendor or a
Mhm.
venue or anybody, your gut knows immediately if you want to work with this person or not. And also, the response time doesn't have to be within 24 hours, but it shouldn't be weeks and weeks. It shouldn't be that hard to give somebody money. It shouldn't. So, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
like,
true.
you either wanna do it or not, and if it's, like, pulling teeth now, it's gonna not be any, the energy's gonna be weird when you're there, and, like,
That's true.
it matters to your retreat. Your guests are gonna observe how you're working together. You
That
don't want it to
is
be
definitely true.
awkward,
That's
so
definitely true because then it's kind of like, okay, I just want them out,
yeah,
and then they might not
yeah,
even do the work that good that they normally do. It's like,
yeah.
okay, oh my goodness,
It's not
uh,
good for anybody, right? Like, you can
right?
both feel it. It's just it's nobody's favorite.
No,
So,
mm-mm. But how, like, regarding photographers and videographers, like, how important are they to like a retreat? Like, are they even needed?
yeah.
Because some
Okay,
that question will come
great
up. Like,
question.
are they even needed?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, so I would say on your first one, I always recommend it so that if you want to do more, you have real content, not stock photos. Like, it matters when you're sharing space. Like, people can tell that you just look more professional, you look like you've done it before, whatever. I also, it depends like where you're attracting your audience from, but if it's on Instagram and social media, like, you can regurge that content for a while. So that
Yeah.
investment should take you very far. I, again, have hosted 22, and I've had a chef. One of my best friends is a chef, and the other one is a photographer, but she's a portrait photographer. And we have a very like strong empowering women theme, and we have these flying dresses, and that's part of the experience. Like,
Oh
they have
wow.
an afternoon in this beautiful scenery where everybody bonds and helps hold these enormous long trains that almost turn into parachutes if there's too much wind. And
Wow.
it's just really like beautiful to see women support women like that. But initially, she helped me with my website and took my branding photos, and again, I'm from corporate. I had didn't even have an Instagram. And so she's
Oh.
like, I'll just go on the first one, and we'll have better content. And I was like, I think you should. I have no clue what I'm doing. I haven't really thought this whole thing through. And it turned into this, people left their phones in their rooms, and we went on
Yes.
excursions, and then they had a
Mhm.
professional take their photo, and they really liked that, like, true checking out, and like just kind of that, so it just became a thing that was very unintentional. So I would say it's I think it's really important for your first one to at least get some content, but depending on your vibe, it might not be necessary for any of the others. But if you are running something else, you could think of it in a different light, sort of like I am. So
Okay. Okay. And what
yeah.
about another thing that I've seen is audio. So it's like sound and audio. Um, Starting out, do you like what do you recommend for getting audio in the retreat? You know, making sure people hear you, making sure that um, make sure that it's projected properly, especially when you have videographers and different people recording um,
Yeah.
your content. How like
Yeah.
what do you recommend for that? Because some people overlook it for a retreat,
Mm.
but what would you say about that?
So I would say it's really important if you have a videographer, and if your videographer doesn't bring up sound, probably not the right person to hire. And I also
Yeah,
believe in hiring
that's true.
like professional, great people to just take that off your list, right?
That's
Like
true.
take some response. So you ask if they don't, they should bring it up. But if they don't, ask them. And if they have a quick solution, like, cool, they're handling it, right? You don't have to
Right.
worry about it. Um, I had, I'd say the bigger the event. So I host normally only 10 to 12 people. So I'm pretty quiet and I'm very short. So sometimes I'll stand on a chair and yell until they get their attention, and then I can talk at a normal level. Um, but I've had several clients host like, 25 plus or larger groups, and we always have to coordinate audio with the venue. And if you're going to host greater than 20 people, you're going to most likely be in a retreat center or a resort or a hotel, and they are set up for that.
Yeah.
They have somebody there that is only in charge of the event management, and they should have the audio on lock. So, it's something I would discuss with them, and again, I would hope they would bring it up. But it's you don't wanna, like, share your valuable content and then have 25% of your guests hear it. That would suck.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, yeah. And then people are
So,
like, okay, what did I get from that? Nothing. Nothing.
yeah, no. They're just literally looking at their watch waiting for it to be over. That's terrible.
Wow.
So,
That's
yeah.
true. That is true. And what about before I'm gonna say that one for last. I'm gonna say that because that is a big important. But like I have so many questions, but there's like what about decorations? Like
Oh,
decorating the depending on where you're having the retreat at.
yeah.
Um let's go into that. What about decorations?
Yeah, so it's almost like an overnight wedding, some of these things, right? And so again, they have these planners and event managers. So tablecloths, candles, flowers, whatever. I, again, in a more intimate setting, always have fresh flowers sprinkled out throughout the house. If I know it's someone's birthday, we'll put, some balloons or like a sign or something, make their favorite dessert, things like that, as far as decorations. But I'm whatever your vibe is, the decorations should match, right?
Mm,
So like
I like that. Yeah.
if you want it to be calm and serene, you don't need too many things. You don't want all this like visual clutter, right?
Yeah.
But people should feel comfortable and relaxed, or motivated, right? Maybe you're doing like a coaching one, and like so
Mhm.
there's different colors for that, right? Or like
Yeah.
so But and also be true to your brand. I don't
Mm,
know if you can see this wall behind me. It's very, very green. That's
yes.
my brand color. I would sprinkle green all over everything if I could. So, but or like even in your gift bags, right? It should match. It should feel cohesive. That's what I even the soaps and things like that. I want them to look like a certain way. I don't, and they make a special label so it's cohesive. So branding matters, the aesthetic matters, and people will notice those details. It'll feel higher end if everything feels more cohesive and not just like,
Yeah. That's true.
thrown together. Or if somebody's like leftover event, like, oh, they had these last weekend, we'll just reuse them. People could feel that probably if they're not on brand at all.
Yeah, and about different themes all at once. You know, just kind of like
Yeah.
it just kind of looks disarray to me. I'm like
Yeah.
that has nothing to do with that, but why is okay?
Yeah.
And it's kind of
There is such a thing as too much, right? Like,
yeah,
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. And sometimes if it's not like coordinated right, like
Mhm.
it can be a distraction. And so no matter
Totally.
like the information you trying to give, it just what they're taking away is like, oh, that piece did not match with the bags,
Yeah.
and this did not do
To
this. Um,
totally.
and in reality, everybody, whenever it's just like the first time doing a retreat, you have to have some people that are going to be critical of
Yeah.
what you do. And so,
Mhm.
and that kind of like puts like the pressure just a little bit on, depending on who you are, kind of push the pressure on
Yeah.
like, okay, I want to make sure I'm perfect, 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 perfect all the way around. But even even then, like sometimes it's okay not to be perfect. It's okay not to have
Yes.
everything.
Totally.
Because it's like,
Totally.
okay, this is the growing stage. Like, okay, we
Yeah.
know we're not gonna have everything, but as long as the information is solid, you're gonna have people coming back the next year and the following year and keep going.
Totally.
And
And
so,
as for feedback,
mhm.
I always do. I send feedback forms right when it's over, and I tell them before they leave that I'm really interested in what they think I could do better. I want to get better, and I also can't read their mind. And they lived and breathed it. And I've gotten some really incredible feedback that I would never thought of.
Wow, that's awesome. Because and sometimes
Mm.
we have to accept the feedback if we want it, you know, to make
Yeah.
sure
You
that
got to take it all. I asked
yeah.
for it. I'm getting
Because it's like,
it.
because there's some feedback I'm like,
Yeah.
I just don't want to do it anymore. But
Yeah.
if we take it constructively, if we take it positively
Mhm.
and be like, okay, I didn't see this the first time. So next year
Mhm.
or however often you have it, okay, the next time we do this, we're gonna just fine tone this. And that's what it all
Mhm.
is mainly about is just fine toning that that thing that you want to do for your retreat. And so
Yeah, I mean, it's no different than your offer as an entrepreneur. You're fine tweaking it all the time. You're getting feedback. People are engaging with it, and some are loving it, and some are not.
that's true. Like, what can you do? Like, it's
Yeah.
like, hey, but I love that's what I love about like people's feedbacks because it's like they always have a point of view that you probably didn't have,
Mhm.
and so that's
Totally.
always, especially if you're constantly looking at it and you're like, okay, I think this
Mhm.
is right, and then they're like, okay, first time looking at it, oh, you got this wrong. So
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
it's always a learning process, and some people get
Mm.
discouraged because hey, it's their first time. It may not work well, and since it didn't work well, they feel like okay, I'm gonna just give up. But what is the importance of just keep going on that,
Mm.
in your
That
opinion?
is my favorite thing to tell myself is keep going. I think it's the difference between the people that do and that don't. Um, So I believe that if you're not making the same mistakes, you're doing it right. So if you take some, and I also don't think you need to doom spiral over feedback. I think if you take away any nuggets or learn a lesson and move forward with that and
Mm,
not sit in a pool of shame for days, that's growth. Trying something, if it didn't go the way that you wanted it to, it doesn't mean it wasn't valuable. There's a lot of lessons in failure. Um, I would also say that sometimes you're just not for everybody, but that makes you better for your ideal clients.
wow,
So there's always going to be people you aren't for, and that's actually really great. That means you're being that or it means you need to be more specific on who you do want on your retreat. The more you get that right, the better experience everybody's gonna have because you're more aligned with your ideal clients that are there. They're all more probably um, alike and different, but alike in enough ways that they all get along. So I think it's a good thing to get feedback. Even this, honestly, the hardest feedback to digest is usually the most valuable.
wow,
It just might
yeah,
take a few days to get over it, but yeah.
that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Now,
I mean, how many times have you went to a party though and you've just been like, "Ah, that person's just not my vibe." It's no
right,
different than whatever service or offer you're offering. Like, I really, value skincare. Not everybody does. You know what I mean? So, I am, any skincare brand's ideal client. You might not be their ideal client. I don't know. Maybe you are. But, like, do you
right.
think they care? No. They just sell it to the next person.
That's true. That's true. It's not like a one size fits all kind of thing.
No. The
Uh,
more confident you are in yourself too, the less that stings. I mean, it used to set me back a lot more than it does now. But just starting out, you're not as confident as, the more mistakes you make, the more confidence you build, truly. So
you
the
know,
longer you're in it, it's just
yeah,
time, really.
that's true. And I guess that
So,
is part of it because sometimes you'll feel like, okay, maybe I can't say certain things or I can't charge certain prices or I can't do certain things because this is my first time or I don't
yeah.
have a lot of experience in.
Mhm.
And they probably like, okay, whatever, I'll take whatever. What is kind of like the up and downside of doing that? Because to me,
Yeah.
that's you're trying to reach you're trying to reach your ideal clients, you're trying to reach your ideal
Yeah.
people, and but you're just starting out. It's like,
Yes.
what do you do?
Yeah, it's, I definitely started a lot broader too because I was just so caught up in, like, "Is anybody come? Am I gonna make any money off of this? Is this gonna be a failure? Will there be 2 people?" So for sure I tried to cast a wider net, sort of, if you will, and be for everybody, and, that served me in creating, a bigger audience faster, but not a invested audience. Like those people that I never was for when I got more niche and more specific and more like confident in who I was and what I wanted to offer. Those people eventually went away anyways. They never actually engaged in a way that was more than just a social media post or a blog or something like that. Um, I think it would be more worth your while to do some work to figure out where your limiting beliefs are of like why you don't think they would pay that. Do you
Mhm.
have a hang up with money? There are 7 billion people in the world. There are plenty of people that can come to your retreat,
That's
and
true.
there
Yep.
are plenty of people that value things differently or have different expendable incomes. I work with a lot of women that have been doing retreats for a long time that aren't making money and are really, really burnt out and depleted, and they can't sustain it. And so, like I said, it's not anybody's driving why, mine included, but it's the difference between running a sustainable business or an expensive hobby. And
That's
one of
true.
those things fizzles out quicker. So you again, it doesn't have to be your driving force or your number one reason, but you have to figure out a way where there's an exchange of energy between you and your clients that doesn't burn you out immediately, where you only do it one time. So I I would say that I've scaled the price point the more experience I got, and but my offer also grew too. I started, doing, like I said, 4 days, very local, and then went to, Italy and Ireland and, like, whatever
Mhm.
for 7, and so, like, not only did I change, but my offer changed. So I think, like, increasing it based on that, and then really nurturing the clients you have. It's easier to nurture an existing client than find a new one, and then they would hopefully bring really great referrals. The more they have a great experience with you. But you gotta get over your shit. You gotta get over your limiting beliefs.
Yeah,
And you don't have to be for everybody. You really don't.
that's
People will
true.
get confused if you write copy that like, "Please, somebody come. I I will take anybody." Like, people are like, "Well, I don't wanna do this." It doesn't feel, you
That's true.
know?
Wow, that's true. But what about okay, I'm almost done. I promise you, I'm almost done.
Hey. It's
What
fine.
if when going through registration and like trying to find that price point? would you recommend for someone that's just starting out doing retreats? Should they do like a tier pricing or just a one solid, in your opinion, in one solid price point, in your opinion?
I always suggest a tiered, at least a shared room, private room tier. Like, um, because if someone really wants to go and like money is their only hang up, that shared room might be the way that they do attend your retreat, your event,
Right.
right? And I also I'm a data and a numbers nerd from my past career, but I love to see like what sells. The more you can have just like a couple of options, the better you can potentially move forward for the next one. I personally love a tiered. Um, I also love a payment plan because that
Mm,
sometimes gets the roadblock out of people as well. I didn't do that in the beginning, and I just did 25% down and then the remaining balance 30 to 60 days out, and it's still the same length of time, same amount of money, but breaking it into like 5 payments where I
mm,
invoice them, that for my audience, that was a game changer.
wow.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I thought about that, like the actual payment plans for different retreats. That's
Yeah.
yeah,
It's like
that's
taking one step away from them, I think, of like they don't wanna think about the saving money, they just know this is what they owe.
yeah.
Whereas I personally, if I have it, I'd rather just pay it and get off my, like, mental to-do list, right? But
Mhm.
I don't think that I'm the norm. So, yeah.
Wow. Okay. What about when getting this whole retreat together? We got, we know what to do with the lighting, we know what to do with, the audio, we know what to do with registration, all that stuff. Once we get all that stuff into motion, like, what is, in your opinion, how important is just advertising, like PR advertisement? How important is that, especially if it's your first time? How important do you think that is to people who are doing their retreats?
It's very important, and especially your first time, because it's a new offer, right? So even if you've been in business, like I have a lot of coaching clients that have people that have been in maybe in like a virtual mastermind or a group, and there's these smaller dollar monthly membership fees, and now this is a much bigger offering.
Yeah.
Um, I think that advertising is huge. It's the difference between selling it or not, right? And
Mm,
I always say that wellness in general is a big ask. It's still a billion-dollar industry, so there are people out there that want to spend their
right.
money
Yeah.
in it, but it's a lot of people put themselves last. And
Hmm.
my husband owns a landscape company and charges his clients way more than I do. But people, if they're like, keeping up with the Joneses or increasing the value of their home, that's usually an easier sell to yourself than doing something that's good for you. Because a lot of
Hmm.
people do put themselves last. So I also always joke that I have to convince them that I'm not a serial killer because we spend the night together. So
Wow.
most people don't wanna do that with a stranger, right? So, um, yeah, it's important, but it's also important, I think, that it's true to you,
Mhm.
because there are thousands of retreats out there, and something that was really hard for me to just get over was they're coming for me. And
Mm.
I was like, "Oh god," I was just trying to throw everything but the kitchen sink
Oh,
at them, like, "Look at all this value. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do that. We're gonna all of this is included." And it's like, there's some message or something that attracted them to you, and they want to
yeah.
spend time with you. So
Wow.
while advertising is important, it's really important you talk about yourself too, which is hard for a lot of people. So,
Wow. That's true because sometimes, especially if it's the first time, it will be hard and challenging just to promote.
yeah.
And especially if you, Oh, that's another question. Especially if you, especially if you like have the outlets to do it on. And so,
Yeah.
in your opinion, like how, like what would be the time frame of advertising the retreat?
Yeah. So out of that like 6 to 9 months, like kind of lead
Hmm.
up time that I talked about in the beginning of the show, I would say at least 4 to 6 of those you want to be just using for advertising. I like to have everybody booked 3 months out. That's just such a pain in the ass if you don't to try to get head counts and, everything else.
Yeah.
It gets more stressful the closer it gets. And you can do like with your advertising, you can do early bird registration discounts, things like that to get people, give them smaller payment plans with a longer term, things like that to try to get earlier signups, and more people quickly. Also, if it gets close to selling out, it creates demands, and
Ooh, yeah.
so.
That's
But but yeah, I would say, especially if it's your first time, just give yourself more time than you think you need. Um, it sometimes takes a long time to create content, your sales page. You don't want that to dip into your actual time, and then tease it, like talk about it before it's ready. Like
mhm,
build some momentum, some excitement so they're waiting for it. Um, you can make it exclusive. So say you are taking like a monthly membership and you're doing this like first time in-person thing.
mhm.
Offer it to, the people that have been in it the longest before everybody else,
Wow.
let them have the best spots and things like that. I now every June launch all of my entire calendar for the following year. And anybody that's retreated with me on multiple or in the last 1 to 2 years, they get first dibs. I send it to them
Wow.
first. Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome.
And
Oh,
it's good to go to the public with things mostly sold out. I mean, that creates urgency
demand.
and demand, and then you
Yes.
can yeah. So, I also like truly, I love to see repeats. I like seeing everybody again. It's like getting to see traveling the world with old friends and or new friends and getting to see everybody every year. It's really nice. So I want them to be able to have first dibs. So
Mm,
anytime you make them feel special, right? And
that's
I
true.
want I want them to feel special anyways, but it also can help you in your marketing.
Okay. And then also for a um like a first time retreat, like what would be the steps on getting volunteers? Because volunteers are huge. Um, in my opinion, volunteers are huge when you start rolling out retreats. And some retreats
Mhm.
they do, they just pay people out, just to get to do different things. But just starting out, like, do you think that volunteers is important? And then also, how do you get those volunteers?
I've never personally hired a volunteer for me or my clients. I don't think that they're not important, and I think if you're in that larger guest count space, they probably are. I personally like to just pay all of my staff. I mean it's their time, and time
That's
is a non-renewable resource, but I also very much value their work and believe that they're the best at what they do. So
mm,
I like to pay them. I also set my prices so that there's enough staff for everybody to feel seen and validated and, special. So I guess if I were starting out and I had a smaller budget or that I'm assuming that's why you would want to volunteer.
mm-hmm,
It would be no different than reaching out to a sponsor. It would
mm-hmm,
but I would also treat them like a paid employee, being very specific of what you want them to do. I
yeah.
mean, you don't want people just showing up and having, wandering around aimlessly. That looks bad.
That's true. What do we do? What do you want me to
Yeah,
do?
yeah.
That's true. That is true. Well, Miss Anna, like it's been a pleasure talking to you for real. Like going from step to step to step on how to doing a first time women's retreat. I believe there's some people that are out there that need this information, that you just kind of like drop gems and just nuggets for them to just take and run with it. And like, I do appreciate you for coming on LaQuita's Toolbox. And also shout out to LaQuita Monley.
Yeah.
Hey LaQuita. Shout out to LaQuita Monley, the CEO of LaQuita's Toolbox. And
Yeah.
again, thank you for coming on so much. And
Thanks for
by,
having me.
no problem. By the way, before we get off, can you just tell everybody that that's a part of LaQuita's Toolbox, how to get in contact with you, like what are your Instagram handles, your Facebook, how do they get to follow you, pretty much?
Yeah, on Instagram, it's at your YOUR Wandering Roots, and then Facebook Wandering Roots. If you Google that or search that, you'll find it. And then my website is yourwanderingroots.com. If you want to book a consult, it's free.
Okay. Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much. And thank you guys for watching LaQuita's Toolbox Live. And we're hoping to see you again next time, next Thursday. This time next Thursday. God bless you. Have a great night, you guys.
Are you ready to take your business, career, and mindset to the next level? Then it's time to join the conversation on LaQuita's Toolbox. Whether you're an entrepreneur, leader, or someone just looking to level up, this show is packed with powerful insights and real strategies to help you succeed. Imagine yourself here, sharing your story, your expertise, and making a real impact with an audience ready to grow and thrive. With LaQuita's Toolbox, you'll be inspired, empowered, and part of an incredible community that's all about winning. This is your moment. Don't miss the opportunity to be a guest on LaQuita's Toolbox. Unlock new doors, connect with like-minded professionals, and elevate your brand to new heights. Ready to make your mark? Head over to www.laquitamonley.com, LaQuita's Toolbox, and sign up to be a guest today.